Hello, welcome to Just the Discs. My name is Brian, and we talk about Blu-rays here. I've got a little collection update happening, and let me get into it. I will start with something from Indicator. This is Bingo Long, Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings from, I want to say, 76? Yes, 1976. And this is directed by John Badham, who would go on to do lots of cool stuff, including Blue Thunder. But I think this is one of my favorite sort of underrated films of his, and it's really a neat movie, in that it has some historical context to it, because it's about the Negro League, the baseball league in the 1930s. And, the description of it is like, tired of the slave-like labor treatment of his team's owner, charismatic star pitcher Bingo Long takes to the road with his band of barnstormers through the small towns of the Midwest in the 1930s. And it's just... it's got a bit of an edge to it, maybe not as dark as it would be if it was made today or anything like that, but it is, a movie that is definitely aware of what it was like for these athletes at this time, and it's got an incredible cast. So you have Billy D. Williams as the titular Bingo Long. He is joined by a friend who is a catcher, played by the great James Earl Jones. So you have a little Empire Strikes Back preamble, if you will. And then you have Richard Pryor and, Ken Foree and just a plethora of African-American actors that you're going to recognize. And it's just, I don't know, I just really dig this movie a lot. Just kind of seeing how they go on the road, what they have to deal with in terms of their old owner who's now trying to stop them from, doing their own thing because he's afraid that all the other players in the Negro League will follow suit. And so it is a fascinating film on that level, and funny, and has moments of real, stuff of the period, and just great chemistry between the cast overall. And it's a good baseball movie. It's like, they feel like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball in a way, in terms of the way that they play and how good they are. And, they're just real pros. And so I really enjoy the story as a sports movie, as a period story, and as an ensemble piece. I think it is just really, really solid. And this, I believe, is the Blu-ray debut. Yeah, world premiere on Blu-ray. It's Region B locked. And, comes with a really nice booklet, as usual. There's your alternate artwork, very similar in some ways. And as usual, with Indicator, it has some nice features. Audio commentary with director John Badham, which is cool. I listened to that and very much enjoyed hearing his stories about the production. There was always Sun Shining Someplace, Life in the Negro Baseball Leagues, 1983, 60 minutes. This is really neat. It's a documentary by Craig Davidson chronicling the life in the segregated league, narrated by James Earl Jones, and featuring archival footage and interviews with numerous baseball players of the period, real players from the league, and just a really interesting document of the period to go along with this film. I think it's the perfect extra for this movie. You get let's see here, John Badham, Trailers from Hell commentary, radio spots, 40-page booklet featuring a retrospective article on the film by Michelle Russell, and archival report on promotional baseball match between the Bingo Long Traveling All-Stars and Motor Kings and the Bad News Bears, an archival interview with Billy D. Williams, an overview of contemporary critical responses, new writing, etc. So a really nice release from Indicator, highly recommended. Then I have another baseball movie. This one's from Shout Factory. This is Little Big League. And this one is from 1994. And this one has really grown on me. I think I only, quote unquote, discovered this within the last 3 or 4 years. And it really caught me. It really caught me in a great way. It is the story of a young kid whose grandfather he's super rich. He's played by Jason Robards. And he owns a lot of stuff, including the Minnesota Twins. And spoiler alert, he passes away early on in the film and leaves the Twins to the kid. And then it becomes a movie about a kid who owns a baseball team who decides he wants to be the manager of the team. And he's a kid who just has this incredible depth of knowledge about baseball and baseball strategy and baseball statistics and history. And he's still a kid, but he definitely has ideas about how the game is played and how to approach certain situations when they arise. And it's really solid. So of course then you have the team very resistant to having a kid as their boss, and it's really interesting. It's got a good cast. The one of the head coach types is played by John Ashton, who of course is from Beverly Hills Cop. And then you have Timothy Busfield plays this like star player on the team. And Busfield apparently was his own baseball player, like actually played some, I think, minor league ball. And so that I found surprising. But there's, it's a really fun cast and an enjoyable, heartfelt baseball movie that's not really a story of, the Bad News Bears type or the Major League type where you've got a team that's not very good that rises to the occasion. In this case, you have a team that's very good that's just been poorly treated and has sort of fallen into a slump of confidence. And, one of the kid's main lessons is he's like, we got to start having fun again. And once they start doing that, they start winning ball games, and it's just a really good sports movie from that point on. But I really enjoy this one. Like, I put it on the other night. I was just going to watch the beginning of it, watch the whole movie, and that's always the sign of a good film. New interview with actor Luke Edwards. He's the kid in this, and then another new interview with Timothy Busfield. I want to say that's like half an hour, and that's great because he's talking all kinds of baseball stuff and casting memories and, sort of a commentary. Those interviews are a nice addition to this Shout Select release. So those are my baseball movies. Then I got a couple animated things. We have Tex Avery Screwball Classics Volume 3 from Warner Archive, and we're getting real close to having, for those of us that remember the Tex Avery Laserdisc box set collection of cartoons, I want to say maybe they're like about a volume's worth away of giving you that entire set as it was now on Blu-ray, and these look absolutely stunning. Technicolor cartoons, most of them, and they just look so good. And it says there's no doubt Tex Avery was the most influential animator of the 1940s and 50s. After altering the face of cartoon comedy at Warner Brothers with his development of characters such as Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, and Bugs Bunny, Avery headed to MGM to further his reign of mayhem with the likes of Screwball, Squirrel, Red Hot Riding Hood, and Droopy. All of Avery's characters are featured here. Droopy as a Mountie, a bullfighter and a Western deputy, Spike as a hibernating bear's wary watchdog, Red as both Cinderella and a frontier cowgirl, and Screwball Squirrel as what else? An escapee from a lunatic asylum. But it's the stories, premises, and gags that are front and center in Avery's films. And in this collection, cartoon features his absolute best. Where to begin? With a cat, a mouse, and a dog, and a canary drinking Jumbo Grow, a lovelorn skunk stuck on imitating Frank Sinatra, or a baby billy goat who eats absolutely everything, including cartoons, background paintings. Avery's Screwball Classics, his one-shot wonders, are what really made his reputation here. From a fast-paced race with Little Johnny Jet to A Crazy Christmas with One Ham's Family, Thanksgiving gorging with a jerky turkey and a nonstop roaring at slap happy lion. This collection showcases Avery at the zenith of his zaniest. And you can see it includes shorts Blitzwolf, The Early Bird Dudit, One Ham's Family, Happy Go Nutty, Jerky Turkey, The Shooting of Dan Magoo, Swing Shift Cinderella, Wild and Woolly, Northwest Hounded Police, Slap Happy Lion, King Size Canary, What Price Fleedom, Little Tinker, Senior Droopy, Cockadoodle Dog, Rockabye Bear, Little Johnny Jet, Billy Boy, Deputy Droopy, and Cellbound. And it features Crackpot Quail with its original audio soundtrack. No other features on this one, but if you got Volume 1, you get a whole bunch more cartoons there. And then in Volume 2, a whole bunch more cartoons, plus a really great little documentary, Tex Avery, King of Cartoons, which is a great summation of the man himself and his career. And I just love having all three of these now. Highly recommended if you're a cartoon fan. This is some good stuff, and let's hope for, fingers crossed, for Tex Avery Volume 4. That is great. One more cartoon here. This one from Scorpion Releasing in Kino, Fritz the Cat, the original Fritz the Cat film from 1972, adapted by the great Ralph Bakshi from the underground comic by Robert Crumb. Who later, I think, more or less distanced himself from the film, was not particularly happy with the film, as it's very much a Ralph Bakshi film. You know, it features some scenes that aren't adapted from any Fritz comics, and it features Bakshi's sort of signature. One of the things I think maybe people forget about Bakshi, if they remember him, which they should, is how great he was at using popular music. Like Scorsese, he used rock and roll music for montages and to move stories along, and he does that here in a couple good examples, and he will do that later in some of his other work, like in Heavy Traffic and things like that. And I always forget that, and I always forget how kind of pioneering it was at the time. It just wasn't something that people were doing that much, and so that's something people don't give Ralph Bakshi enough credit for. Also, he's just a great filmmaker, animator, and this character is a fascinating one. This movie came out at a time when there was something they talk about in the commentary called porn chic, which was basically, like something like Deep Throat comes out in theaters, and it's an X-rated adult film, and it's reviewed really well, and suddenly people from the suburbs are wanting to go see Deep Throat and other, adult films in theaters. It was like cool to do it, even in the suburbs, and that sort of brought around the idea of X-rated films were a commodity that people were interested in, and this character was, had gained a great deal of popularity through all the underground comics that that R. Crumb had done. And so the combination of an X-rated cartoon at the time of porn chic really took off. And this film is important in that sense, as it was, one of the early X-rated, films that, got a decent release, I think. But yeah, it's interesting, and this transfer looks pretty good. The cartoon itself looks nice, and you have this commentary with Stephen Bissett and G. Michael Dobbs, and I want to say Stephen Bissett is the one who actually worked on like Swamp Thing and some other comics in the DC universe and things like that, and they just have a really great conversation about Bakshi and contextualizing, again, the stuff I'm talking about, the porn chic, and what allowed this film to happen, and what were the components behind it. Who was R. Crumb? What was his history? What was Bakshi's history? And I really dug it. It's a neat commentary track to go with, a film that is certainly well known in some circles. But yeah, so now you have Fritz the Cat and 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat, which is certainly a lesser film. But Fritz is an interesting character, kind of an iconoclast, kind of a poser, kind of a guy who wants desperately to be cool, as they say in the commentary, but is not, and is always sort of trying to be the cool guy, to co-opt whatever he can to look cool. And it's a fascinating portrait, and it definitely speaks to the counterculture of the time, and just a confluence of a lot of things that allowed it to be kind of a sensation. But it's nice to have a Blu-ray of it finally with a nice commentary. Next up we have some stuff I just got, including Legend, which I'm just going to crack open right now for you guys. I'm sure you've seen some people talking about this one. This came out a little while ago now at the time this video is coming out, but a beautiful beautiful hard box for this one. And I know there's some question about why no 4K. James Flowers from Arrow posted a series of tweets about it, and it basically had to do with the different cuts of the film and how certain elements of those cuts were either lost or not in great shape. There wasn't enough good elements for each of them to allow for a 4K of, I guess, any of them. But they really wanted to, which is a bummer. But regardless, this is the now definitive set for Legend, and you get some nice cards. You got a poster action happening. Got a very nice bound book. Beautiful mat. Lots of nice little essays and articles. God, I love the way they do this. Arrow is really one of the best. They just have almost never disappointed me. And this has alternate artwork as well. The old artwork, which I don't like quite as much. So you've got your director's cut, and then your U.S. theatrical cut, some more cards, some lobby cards, and a postcard. But yeah, I mean, just a ton of features. In the case of the theatrical cut, they did do a new 2K restoration, commentaries, and I mean, some of this stuff looks like it's older stuff, but nonetheless, a really, really nice set for fans of the film, and hats off to Arrow again. Always doing great work. Okay, what else have we got here? All right, I picked up something that went out of print. I haven't had a chance to rewatch this again, but Bad Influence from Shout Factory went out of print, and so I had to snag it on eBay, but it's definitely one I remember fondly. I've been a Spader fan for years, and this is one I've been meaning to revisit. James Spader and Rob Lowe star as two men on a collision course with fate and each other in the underrated gem Bad Influence. Quiet, unassuming financial analyst Michael Ball, Spader lives a successful yet timid life, lacking in risks or rewards. When he crosses paths with the enigmatic Alex Lowe, the two form a friendship based on an ever-increasingly bolder behavior. When Michael's new pal pushes things too far, however, Michael wants out, but the mysterious Alex has no desire to set him free from the seductively dangerous lifestyle he's dragged him into. A sexy and suspenseful drama in the vein of Hitchcock's Strangers on a Train. Bad Influence is a crackling thriller from writer David Koepp and Oscar winner and director, the late Curtis Hanson, who did LA Confidential and Wonder Boys, and I'm a big fan of his, and that's the other reason I bought it, is because I like Curtis Hanson and I want to revisit it for him too. So you also get a Under the Influence, a new interview with David Koepp, who's a screenwriter that I am definitely a fan of as well. But I'm glad I picked this one up, despite it being about, I want to say about $30 out of print on eBay. All right. A new pickup. This is Edgar Wright's The Sparks Brothers documentary, which I liked quite a bit. I thought was a very solid doc. And this disc, it's a 2-disc set. So you have your movie, which is over 2 hours long, and then you have your bonus disc as well, which, according to the back, let's see here. Bonus disc includes Sparks live in London, a 22-song performance, so the full concert, and over 2 hours of deleted scenes, extra celebrity interviews, and more. So I'm excited to check out what got cut. If it's just extended scenes, I'm sure there's a few people that didn't make it into the documentary at all that I'd love to see. But I just found this a really fascinating portrait of a band that is highly influential, and musically, I had underrated. I knew them from their song Monster of Love from the Valley Girl soundtrack, and I had sort of pigeonholed them as a kind of a, not a gimmick band, but like just they had a specific sound, and it was cool for that soundtrack, but not something I wanted to explore. And one thing this documentary does is it really allows you to see their evolution, all the different albums. They've done like 25 albums or something ridiculous, and how they would change directions here and there and do different things. And it just got me really interested in their music and totally understanding why they're so influential and why they're so appreciated by so many. And just a great documentary overall. It doesn't do anything groundbreaking in terms of technique. It's a lot of talking heads, but but overall, it definitely, got me excited about them as a band. And I started listening to more of their music, and I love that when a movie can do that. So hats off to Edgar Wright for doing a great documentary in the same year when he's got a narrative film coming out that I'm very excited to see in Last Night in Soho. But I'd love to see him do another doc because he does do some cool stuff in terms of the intercutting of found footage and other things. He is able to add that Edgar Wright-ness, that Edgar Wright energy to it. So I dug it. Like I said, it was worth picking up for me. And then last, I've got my not on Blu-ray pick here for the month or for the week. Wilder Napalm. This is directed by Glenn Gordon Caron. More interestingly, written by Vince Gilligan, of course, of the television show Breaking Bad, among other things. This is a fascinating film. I don't know if it fully works for me all the way through, but it's still fascinating in its premise, and that's basically that you have two brothers who both have psychokinetic powers. They're able to start fires with their minds, and we catch up with them midlife crisis, basically. One of them is a clown in a circus. That's Dennis Quaid's character, who is now using his powers as sort of a sideshow novelty. And his brother, played by Arliss Howard, who works in a photomat booth in the middle of a parking lot, and who is married to Deborah Winger, and who we find out has gotten this job. God, I don't want to give it away, actually. I don't want to talk about why he's at where he's at, but at the beginning of the movie, his wife is under house arrest. They live in a trailer park, and it's, not the best life they want to be living. And then Dennis Quaid shows up with his circus, and he's ready to throw down and sort of bring all the animosity that's been between him and his brother for years. And we find out sort of where that animosity stems from, and part of it stems from the fact that Arliss Howard's character does not want to exploit his psychokinetic powers for fame, because he realizes that in doing so, he may draw the attention of like government agencies or whoever that will take him away, and would do the same to his brother, who is on the cusp of going on the David Letterman show and showing off his powers. And so they're fighting about that stuff. And I guess the downside to the movie, if I had to offer one, is that they are kind of fighting and, bickering through the whole movie mostly. And it's kind of a bummer to watch people fight through a whole movie, like a little antagonism here and there is okay, but like fighting through a whole movie I found a little exhausting. But again, I do like the premise. These two guys who can start fires with their mind. They do take advantage of that, although maybe they could have taken a little more advantage of it. But I've heard that this film was definitely test screened, maybe to death, and so some changes were made, and I think the ending is different here than it might have been from the original script. But anyway, fascinating story in the Marvel era that we live in. I feel like you could do a movie. I would love to see more movies like this with just random people with powers that aren't really explained, and they're not superheroes exactly. They're something else. And so this one's available streaming. It's available on DVD, not on Blu-ray as far as I know. And worth checking out if you haven't seen it. Deborah Winger is great. And there's definitely some other recognizable folks in the cast. Jim Varney, among others. But I dug it. It was good to watch. So that will do it for this collection update. Hopefully there's some enjoyable stuff here for you all to check out. Please have a wonderful week filled with Blu-rays, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye-bye.